milling operations complete on the legs, it's time for a little bit of assembly. We can assemble the legs to the frame and panel sections for the headboard and the footboard. We'll start with the footboard first. It's straightforward. The only place that we're going to put glue is along this area and about 2/3 of the way around the middle section of the tenon. That way we won't have any squeeze out that ruins the look of our through tenon, and when we put the leg on top of there, it won't force too much glue out onto this area. Now, throughout the whole process, I've kept track of which post belongs to which side of the frame and panel assembly, and I know the inside because it doesn't have a piece of veneer on it. So I can get the legs back in the same place where I built the mortises around them. What's nice about the yellow glue is it acts as a lubricant. Now I'll flip the whole frame and panel assembly over and put the second leg on, and then we'll clamp it just to draw those posts in tight. Now it's a little tricky to get on there, but you can use 2 clamps kind of chained together if you don't have one that's long enough, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. And that does a nice job of drawing everything in tight. So the headboard assembly goes basically the same way. I've put on the one post onto the 2 tenons, and I've left that lower cross member out for the time being. I'm going to flip this assembly upside down, insert that tenon, and then I can put all 3 on top of the other side. So I've made some pencil marks that represent the outline of the area that I need to remove. So I've installed a straight guide on my small trim router with a 1/4 inch spiral upcut bit, and I've set the fence to position the bit so that it makes the outside edge of the mortise. So I'll make a pass here, I'll come around this side, make a pass here, and then remove the material in the middle after making an adjustment to the fence. After a little work with the chisel, we should have a good fit. And the last step is to make a couple of holes to accommodate these protrusions that stick out of the back of the plate. And I'll do that with a 3/8 inch drill bit. I'm going to temporarily secure the hardware and drill the pilot holes for the screws that hold this hardware in so that I can have a dry fit of the bed. And if you've mortised the right depth, your hardware should end up flush with the end of the board. I'll attach the hardware to the headboard and the footboard in the same way. And the middle screw has the added benefit of going down and locking the tenon in place, similar to the peg dowels that we're going to put in from the other side. After installing the hardware, I was able to set up the bed using the side rails that are linked into the headboard and the footboard. Now we're going to work on the support system. We need an additional runner along the side rails for the box spring to sit on, and that's just the beginning of the support system. That gets attached to the side rail with biscuits and glue. So I've cut this support board to fit exactly between the 2 horizontal rails of the headboard and the footboard. Now I just need to mark where to notch around the post. And I'll create that notch using the table saw for the first cut and the bandsaw for the second cut. Now that we've cut the notches in the end of the side supports that attach to the side rails, we can turn our attention to the cross slats. I'm going to have 3 slats that go across the bed. But unlike other beds that we've seen where they just lay boards from side to side, these are going to interlock with the side supports through this dovetail cut. Now since I have 6 of these dovetail sockets to make, I've made a little jig that helps me cut them out on the router table. And you can see the jig's just made from a few pieces of scrap wood with the right angle to make the dovetail. And it goes over the piece and gets screwed in from the back side. And this is the side that will attach to the side rail, so you won't see these screw holes when I'm done. And here's how the jig works. There's a little bushing that's attached to the router table's insert plate that rides along these guide boards and cuts that shape in the board that's in the center of the jig. So we'll just move it around. We'll make 2 passes. So that's it for the first pass. Now we'll raise the bit to the full height, about 3/4 of an inch, and make the second final pass. Building this jig was definitely worthwhile because all my sockets are going to come out exactly the same size. With the dovetail sockets cut in the support piece, it's time to attach this support piece to the side rail. And we'll do that using glue and biscuits. There'll be 8 biscuits in all, 1 at either end, and then 2 surrounding each socket for support. And since this is long grain to long grain glue up, the glue will be the real strength in the joint anyways. The biscuits probably aren't necessary, but it can't hurt to have that extra strength. So we'll be putting a biscuit in this face, right here, and where that meets this board. I rarely use the fence on my biscuit joiner. Instead, I just put the piece on a flat surface like this, bring the biscuit joiner up, align where it needs to go, and make the cut. And then with the mating piece on the same flat surface, I do the same thing. And that makes the biscuit the same distance from the bottom edge, 3/8 of an inch on center with this particular biscuit joiner. And the glue up on this is pretty straightforward. Just glue in the biscuit slots and then glue all the way along the joint. Insert the biscuits and clamp it up tight. The only thing I need to be concerned of is perfectly aligning the side support to the side rail. Because if you remember, we notched around the end of the side support to fit around the post. That needs to be perfectly in line with the end of the side rail in order to fit around that notch we made. That does it for this part of the video, but I invite you to check out the all-new Eagle Lake Woodworking to see the rest of the videos in this series and videos on other woodworking topics. You can access all parts of the videos in one easy viewer. Check out the photo galleries of in-process work, measured drawings, and finished projects. You can also download files associated with projects. So check it out at www.eaglelakewoodworking.com.